All right, so in this video we're going to talk about change of numeraire, and really all I mean by that is, typically when we've been doing our analysis, we've been thinking just in terms of dollars, and our utility functions are in terms of dollars, and what that means is the bond, which is sort of fixed income relative to dollars, the bond or the cash under your pillow, those have all seemed risk free, right? And then the stock has always seemed risky. So we're gonna kind of dig into that a little bit and really analyze it. Okay, so what we're gonna start with is we're just gonna start with our pretty standard setup, right? So we're gonna start with our two assets, so 1 and 1, right? And then we have a bond up top, 1.02, 1.02, and then the stock on the bottom. This is going to be our down state for the stock, and this is going to be the up state for the stock, and this is going to be 0.9, and this is 1.2, okay? And, just as sort of an aside here, the down state for the stock is sort of the up state for the bond, and the up state for the stock is sort of the down state for the bond. Now, you can see, obviously, that the bond is going to pay off the same in either state, but if you just think relatively, right, if the stock goes down, that means the bond has gone up relative to the stock. And if the stock has gone up, the bond has gone down relative to the stock. So that's all that's doing. And let's also make sure we get our units right. So this top one is a bond, and what are these numbers? These are dollars, right? So these are dollars per bond. Okay, and what's this? These are dollars per stock. All right, and what we're going to do in this video is we're going to change our numeraire to be not dollars, but we're going to consider either stocks or bonds. So on the left side of the screen, we'll do bonds, and then on the right side of the screen, we'll do stocks. Okay? And we'll really pay attention to our units in this video, all right? So right here, let's do bonds first. So if we have dollars per bond, okay, and then what are we going to do to get bonds per bond? And you'll see what I mean. So what we'll do is we'll divide by dollars per bond. And then here everything can cancel, or we can just cancel the dollars, and then this gives bonds per bond. Okay? All right, so what that means, I know that might sound a little weird, but it'll make sense. So what we're doing in this top row is we're going to divide it by itself, right? So this top row, in terms of bonds, will be 1. And then here, well, we're going to divide 1.2 by 1.2, right? So dollars per bond divided by dollars per bond. So this is just going to be 1 again, and so will this for the same reason. And the units here are bonds per bond. Right, so if we invest in one bond, right, if we just invest in this, in the future, in either state, we're going to have one bond for every bond that we invest in times 0, okay? All right, so now we'll do the similar thing for the stock on this bottom row, okay? So what we want, our goal is to have bond per stock, right? And so how do we do that? Well, this row, we have dollars per stock. So we're going to do the bottom row. So I'm going to undo that real quick. Okay, so we're going to have dollars per stock. Okay. And now what we want is we want this bond to be on top. So we're going to divide this by dollars per bond. Right? And now that will give us, the bond will flip to the top. The stocks will stay on bottom, right? Okay, so we'll use dollar per stock. So we'll take this bottom row and we'll divide it by the top row. Okay, so now we've got the bottom row divided by the top. Okay, that stays at 1. And I'll just go ahead and write our units here. Bond per stock. Okay. And now, we want to take the bottom row and divide by the top. Okay. So let's go ahead and write and do this in GeoGebra over here. Whoops, I didn't mean to have that up. That's okay. I'm just going to leave this page. All right, so let's start our calculator. Okay, so dollars per stock divided by dollars per bond. So dollars per stock divided by dollars per bond, that's 0.9. divided by 1.02, so 0.9 divided by 1.02. Okay, so that's 0.88. Okay, 0.88. Okay, that's an 8. And now here, we're going to do the same thing. So 1.2 divided by 1.02. So 1.2 divided by 1.02. Okay, so that's 1.76. And we probably don't need too many decimals, but that's okay. Did I do that right? 1.176. I knew I did something wrong there. 1.176. Okay, bonds per stock. All right, so do you see what we did there? So now what we're doing is this is sort of the same thing as up here, but we're analyzing things in terms of number of bonds we have instead of number of dollars we have. Okay, so now let's do the same analysis, but let's just use stocks, right? So the units we want now, I'll go ahead and just fill this out, right? The units we want now are what? We want stocks per bond, and then stocks per stock. Okay, and you can probably guess how we get stocks per stock. We just take this bottom row, so we do dollars per stock, and then divide by dollars per stock. And then that gives us, you know, everything could cancel out if we wanted it to, or we can just leave it as stock per stock. Okay, now how are we going to get this one? We want stocks divided by bonds. Okay, so here we have bonds on bottom. So let's do that. So dollars per bond. Okay. And now, what do we want? We want to get the stocks on the top, right? So let's divide by this thing. Divided by dollars per stock. And that's going to be stock per bond. Perfect. All right, so to fill in this bottom row, what are we doing? We're doing this. So we're just dividing it by itself, right? So it's just going to be ones all the way across. Okay, now in this top row, we're doing this. So dollars per bond, right? And then we're going to divide it by dollars per stock. Okay, so dollars per bond, and we're going to divide this thing, right? Okie doke. So dollars per bond is 1.02, and then divided by dollars per stock. So 1.02 divided by 1.02 divided by 0.9. Okay, so that's 1.13. 1.13. Okay. And now this next one is going to be what? It's going to be dollars per bond, so 1.02 divided by this 1.2. 1.02 divided by 1.2 is 0.85. And then here we've got a 1 because we're dividing 1 by 1. Okay, so now here, and we'll stop here, and in the next video we'll pick up where this left off. But now you can see we just have sort of the same matrix, but we're writing it in terms of something else, right? Yeah, so this is sort of, we can kind of think of this as changing our numeraire. All right, so again, like I said, we'll pick up in the next video, and in that case, what we'll do is we'll sort of do the portfolio optimization, or the choice of synthetic asset, choice of optimal synthetic asset. So we'll do it, but we'll do it in terms of these different numeraires rather than just doing it in dollars. Okay? Alrighty, so we'll see you then.